Hey, what's going on out there in IE Network land? And you know what time it is when it's 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It is time for the Benchwarmers podcast live exclusively on the IE Network here on YouTube. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Please come on in, come on in. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Yes, in that order. Like, comment, and subscribe when you're coming in to this wonderful program of mine, which is sports and everything else. I'm, of course, your host, the man himself, James Acevedo. I'll be riding solo. No, nobody's going to be riding shotgun tonight. It will be just me. Heaven Hollywood has the night off. So it'll be just yours truly as I talk to you what's been going on in the world of sports and everything else. And before I get this show going, like I said seconds ago, please like, comment, and subscribe to this channel. And also donate. Please feel free. Yes, all the wonderful content that we over here on IE Network provide for you each and every day of the week. Please go to Super Chat. Do a little donation there right here on YouTube. Also, we have the Cash App. I'm on Cash App. Mine is $ Jimmy Ace Cash. Heaven's Cash App is Heaven Hollywood. Very simple. And the Cash App for the IE Network is the IE Network. So that's about it as far as I can remember, as far as all those announcements. And with that being said, it's showtime. But before I get on with the show, want to take this time here to send my condolences and my prayers to the late great hip hop pioneer extraordinaire MARKIE, who passed away just last week. He was only 57 years old. This man right here, he is the reason why yours truly got into hip hop at the age of 13 years old back in October 1986. And when I heard the official word that MARKIE passed away, a whole flow of emotions came over me. One of them is, when people like this that you seen in the entertainment world as you're growing up pass away before you, it not only gives you that sense of mortality, but also gives it one step closer to your childhood being dead, as far as these people being in your life from TV or radio that you grew up with. So that's sobering, and he was a huge part of my life as far as loving the music that I loved. I mean, I loved the music as it was as a kid. Back then I was already listening to, hip hop. Well, not hip hop at that time before MARKIE, but definitely, R&B and rock and pop, all that, whatever I can get my hands on. I used to have my own little record player, 45, portable record player. For those young kids that don't know what that is, a 45 is a small record. Look it up. It was one of those small records that you got. It was just basically the singles, like whatever the hits were of, they used to have in my record store around my way, where each shelf had its own single, and it was whatever the top 40 was. So it would say number 5. You would look at number 5 shelf. It was a number 5 hit of that week, and number 4, stuff like that. So it was always the top 40. And I used to always go there almost each and every week. And then, of course, when I got older, went to tapes and CDs. The rest is history. But to rewind back, October 1986. Now, this is intertwined with sports because this was around the time that my cross rival, the New York Mets, were going on their baseball like they ought to be run of that year. I remember like yesterday. It was like maybe, if I remember correctly, it was around the time. It was definitely, I think it was around the NLCS when they were facing the Astros. So it was around that time, because it was. I remember being early mid October. So it was definitely during the 1986 NLCS between the Astros and the Mets, and then I was rooting for the Angels to beat the Red Sox of the 1986 ALCS. And my hatred of the Red Sox started that year for a lot of reasons why. I won't go into it right now because I said it in the past, but I'll bring it up another time. But back to the matter of fact here. I remember just because I always used to always listen to the radio. Back in the day, it was a big thing to listen to music on the radio. If you heard it on the radio, that means it was something. It ain't like now where anybody could just upload something and oh wow, this is my song. Now, in a way, that's kind of cool because millions of people can hear you without you going to a record executive or anything. But in a way, it sucks because it waters down the music industry. So it's like a catch-22. And it's like any Tom, Dick, and Harry could just put a single out there and they think they're making music, which is definitely not the case. And unfortunately, that has it's made its way to TV, which started 20 years ago, over 21 years ago, with reality TV, which that's another story for another day. Wes has talked about that on his Real Talk show plenty of times. But anyway, back to the matter at hand. So I remember going, you know what? I've been hearing about this hip hop for a while. Like I was not really into it at that time. You would think I would be with Run DMC being around, for 3 years at that time already, and with oh boy, yeah, MC Shan, KRS-One. But see, at that time, I didn't have the right mindset yet at that time. And then came one day on a Saturday, October of 1986. Like I say, it was mid-October. That maybe the second or third Saturday of October of 1986. And I came across WBLS 107.5, and the jingle used to be in a class by itself. It was a hip hop mix show with two legends. One unfortunately passed away a long time ago. One is currently still living. One was Mr. Magic and Marley Marl. The Rap Attack. That was an eye-opener for me in hip-hop. So that was my first time listening this particular night. It used to come on, if I remember correctly, this is where I wish Heaven was really on, because he could refresh my memory, because he's about the same age as me, around the same age. I remember this, I think it came on, I don't know if it was 8 to 10 at night. It was something, it was a 2 or 3 hour show, something like that. But they would play what was hot in hip hop. Now, let me tell you something. It's not like nowadays where you can just find any type of music like that, especially when it came to hip hop. Hip hop at this time was looked at as a phase, like a joke, basically. Everyone thought it would be like disco, and it would die within, not even less than a year or a few years or something, So I made the time and effort to check this out at 13 years old. And I was hooked. The first song I ever heard, and the song that would change history for me and made me fall in love with hip hop for basically a good, like at least 20 years, I would say. It was Biz Markie. And the song was Make the Music with Your Mouth Biz. The first lyrics I heard, I want to, I want to, I want to, I want to. I like to introduce myself. My name is Biz Markie, and I'm the human orchestra called Biz Markie. Making lips with my mouth is my specialty. When I go, one, two, girls get excited. When they hear my lyrics, they want to recite. I know that you're in the mood. Let's go with the flow, and I can play your rap records and all disco. Like Beat It Billie Jean by Michael Jackson. All the tracks play racket. They call action. When you hear me do it, you'll be shocked and amazed. It's a brand new thing they call it. Human beat just craze. Make the music with your mouth is. I heard that it was over. It was over. It was over. I fell in love like that. Like that. I was like, wow, what is this? Who is this guy? Right? Because at the time, I remember when I heard it, sometimes they would play the record. And if I remember correctly, they didn't tell you who it is. And then after the fact, they would tell you, Mr. Magic, after he came, hey, 107.5 WBLS in the class by itself. That was Biz Markie, would make the music with your mouth. And I was like, Biz Markie, okay. All right. And in those days, if you got your song heard on hip hop, whether in WBLS 107.5 or Kiss 98.7 Kiss FM with DJ Red Alert, if your song came on either of those stations, you were set. At least you were on a way of being, on a road to success. It wasn't automatic. You've heard stories with KRS-One where, his South Bronx was being played and he was homeless living on a subway station. He was living on a subway train and he was hearing his music being played on the radio on DJ Red Alert show on Kiss FM. And his mind was blown, and that's how Scholar Rock, the rest is history. That's for another story. But when I heard that, I was hooked. Now, in those days, even if you were heard on one of those two great legendary hip hop shows, it wasn't like easy to go to a record store and find the album. Because in those days, all they did was put out the record. They didn't right away put out the record for you to buy. They did a smart move. They would put it on the radio first. Once it caught traction and they saw how many people were calling in the station, who was that? Can you play that again? Then the record company would put it out, but only to selective record stores, mainly urban. In other words, the ghetto. But mainly it was in urban neighborhoods. Of course, I was living in an urban area at that time. So I remember, but see, in those days, I couldn't afford when I was 13, my uncles weren't buying me 45s like they used to do, when I was a kid. Now I was a young teenager and they were basically, well, you gotta, get a job, earn money. And at this time I wasn't working at that time. I was too early to get working papers, right? Too young at that point. So I made an effort. That moment I heard it, I made the decision and commitment to every Saturday night. Made sure I had at least a Radio Shack 60-minute or 90-minute tape. If I was even fortunate enough to get a 120, which was a 120-minute tape, which is 2 hours, I was golden. So either I had an hour tape, hour and a half tape, or a 2-hour tape. See, then I didn't know when it came to speeds, the quality of the sound is better, of course, on a 60-minute tape than a hour and a half or 2 hours. But I was 13, give me a break. So, but anyway, I was hooked. I was in love. And Biz Markie came out with hit after hit with, Picking Boogers and Just a Friend and The Vapors and him, and he helped so many people. Like he had Big Daddy Kane shine on his record on his first album, which is awesome classic record. He helped EPMD get on. He helped so many others get on the hip hop scene. And this was during, like I said, this was during time where it was hard to find hip hop records. I mean, it took a while because even if they were heard on those radio stations, which was only those two stations, because it's not universal like it is now with hip hop. It was usually only in these urban stations, especially in New York. You either heard hip hop on WBLS or 98.7 Kiss FM. Those are the only two stations you heard hip hop. That was it. You didn't hear it no WCBS 101.1 or all these other type of radio stations. You didn't hear that, right? It wasn't until a few years later, like in the late 80s or so, when Hot 97, before they were Hot 97, they were Hot 103 for 1 year. And then in 88, they changed to Hot 97, the rest is history. Then they became a big stranglehold in hip hop as far as the radio station, but I digress. So in those days, it was hard to find. I remember shout out to my best friend, Eddie out there, you know who you are. I remember we used to go to the record stores and hope that we could find a tape, a hip hop tape. Because sometimes you either saw collaborations where they took like the best hip hop hits of that year and put in one tape, which I still have to this day. I had the Beastie Boys, Run DMC, and LL Cool J. I thought I was in heaven. I was like, oh, this is great. Now I don't have to wait for the radio station to come on, the show to come on. Because I was a Mr. Magic, Marley Marl guy. I was a bigger Mr. Magic and Marley Marl guy than I was Cool DJ Red Alert. Nothing personal, just that's how I felt. Because that's why I first heard hip hop. Where I really fell in love with. So I'm a very loyal guy. So I always go with what got me, to fall in love, to get me inspired. Nothing against Cool DJ Red, which I had the privilege of meeting 21 years ago at a subway station one time on a train, on the one train, if I remember correctly, back in 2000. Unfortunately, I didn't get the honor and privilege to meet the late great Biz Markie. But going back to what I was saying, it wasn't until the later 80s, like maybe 88, around 88 or so, that there was more hip hop tapes in Sam Goody and in Tower Records and more of these bigger record store companies, not the mom, because before it was just the mom and pop stores, record stores, especially in the urban areas. So it was hard to get, because I remember I didn't get my first Biz Markie tape till later. My first ever hip hop tape that actually was an actual, tape from a record company, it was LL Cool J's I'm Bad. And the ironic thing about that, I saw a touching video from LL Cool J the other day, and he was talking about how him and Biz were very cool and stuff like that. And I saw a story just the other day of an old interview with Biz Markie, and he was talking about how LL Cool J knocked him out of the #1 spot with Making Music with Your Mouth Biz back in 1986. And what was the song that knocked him out of #1? It was LL Cool J's I'm Bad. And that was the first album, as far as, a whole hip hop album from one hip hop artist that I bought, which I still have to this day. I have all the actual tapes that came out, everything. I have Public Enemy, you name it, everybody. I have the original cassettes that came out and CDs. It ain't no reproduction, that they got remastered later on. I got the original prints that were made from back then, that year, back to those 30 plus years ago. So it was such an extraordinary time, the golden era of hip hop. He's done so much for kids, with his work with kids, Biz Markie, and everything he did for the hip hop community. And it's just a shame that to pass away at 57. He had diabetes. It's terrible. That's too young, and too many of our hip hop pioneers have passed away this year. You have, most of them hip hop pioneers. DMX was a hip hop pioneer, but he was definitely a huge contributor to hip hop. He passed away. Then, we have Shock G, another hip hop pioneer, especially in the West Coast, from the West Coast, passed away from Digital Underground. He's the main reason why Tupac is known to this day. Gave him his first break. Homeboy from Houdini died. All this year, all within the first 7 months of this year. That's already I lost track of count. 5 that passed away in 7 months? That's about 5. Something like this. 1, 2. Yeah, this is where I show you. My math skills are deteriorating. Okay, DMX. Yeah, that's about 5. I think that's about 5. So yeah, it's just in all seriousness, it's just terrible. And unfortunately, I saw this coming. Shout out to someone out there that knew Biz Markie personally as a childhood friend. You know who you are. My condolences and prayers to you. I know you were one of his closest friends. I don't want to say his name out there out of respect. But I do know him. I haven't seen him in years, but I do know him. And, I want to give my prayers and my condolences to the family of Biz Markie and his friends and everybody. And he will never be forgotten. He definitely was very special to me. Not only was a hip hop pioneer, but he was a great guy. From what I heard, I never heard not one bad word about Biz Markie. I've never heard anybody, and he talked to everybody. He was with everybody in the world of hip hop, and it's a shame that the people who are in hip hop right now don't send those respectful regards to the people of the past. Every other music genre basically does that except for hip hop, and it's a shame for the most part, especially when it comes to hip hop. At least with R&B, you have people currently, even though R&B doesn't really exist anymore, but you know what I'm saying? Like, at least there's some sort of acknowledgement somewhere from Usher or something when it comes to R&B music. But with hip hop, you don't hear these new cats and these new chicks in hip hop today don't even say nothing. They act like they didn't exist. And it doesn't take much to send an acknowledgement every now and then. Say, hey, thank you. You're the reason why I'm doing what I'm doing today, why I'm making millions of dollars, why I'm so worldwide, because you guys paved the way for where we're at today. And it's very frustrating, especially when hip hop today, for the most part, is really terrible. For at least about 95% of hip hop is terrible. Maybe about 5%. Maybe I'm being nice. Maybe there's 5% out there, and it's mostly probably underground that's pretty good and don't get the light of day. But hopefully one day uh, there'll be a 180 or a complete 360, and we'll be back to what it at least somewhat used to be when it came to hip hop, and it'll be about lyrics and bars, and not about just likes, and not about what they did, as far as like off the mic or off the set, them acting like fools or anything like that. So it's sad because you see another piece of your child, like I said, another piece of your childhood just passing away, and it really, really hit me. And I think I'm not alone, especially with people around my age. If you're like, I would say, if you're about my age at 48 to about 42 years old, maybe, or around, or at least 40, between 40 and 48 years old, maybe somewhere around there. Maybe not even that, maybe around, I would say 42 to 48 years old, or in between those 6 years, then you understand. Or even, of course, even if you're a little older, if you're 50 and over and around Biz Markie's age, you'll definitely understand, because Chuck D's an older cat, Flavor Flav's an older cat. So, Cool G Rap, all these guys are older. So they definitely acknowledge all these guys because they were part of the game. It was even though it was a doggy dog world, they give respect to each other back in those days. They really did. It was just about, look, I'm going to show you I'm better than you, but it was never personal until MC Shan and KRS One and stuff like that. And then the rest is history. Then it got too crazy, unfortunately, when it came to my main man, Tupac, and then Biggie. So but of course, that's another story for another time, and that's been talked, no pun intended, to death. So once again, rest in peace to Biz Markie and his friends and his family. My condolences, and he will never be forgotten. He never will be. Excuse me. So with that being said, I will move forward. To my. I'll shout out to everybody in the chat room, by the way, for joining in. We always appreciate all the listeners out there listening and commenting. Joseph Tanner and the gang out there, thank you so much. Let me get to my thoughts of, now we can officially start this show. I definitely didn't want to start this show without showing my respect and my admiration and my appreciation of the late great Biz Markie. And for all the old hip hop heads out there, the pioneers that paved the way, because I was part of that era and I loved it. And I still got the original tapes, like I said. Not only the original recorded studio tapes, but also the original mixtapes that were put out in the streets. Whether I got it on tape from the radio, or BLS, or Kiss FM, or even from the streets from DJs. And those were the good old days. And I'm not trying to sound like the old man get off my yard type of thing. It's just the truth. It's not an opinion, it's a fact. So I definitely wanted to start that off before I started with this segue, which I will do now. My Yankees, when they come out of the All-Star break, started, well, it was supposed to start last Thursday night. But there was a fork in the road at this road out of the All-Star break, because there was a COVID situation when it came to Aaron Judge and a couple of other players on the team. And the game had to be suspended because they had to get second tests and making sure that no one else was caught with COVID, either the rest of the Yankees or the opposing team, the Red Sox. So the game got canceled. Then Friday comes along. No one knows if there was going to be a game. I didn't think there was. And it ended up, because it was supposed to be a 4-game series that started Thursday night. It turned into a 3-game series because, amazingly enough, which I was shocked, they played the game Friday night. So obviously they passed the second test and everybody was okay. But the Yankees were depleted because Aaron Judge was put on the 10-day COVID list. I mean, who would have ever thought in any of our lives we would hear a COVID list in the sports world or some sort of pandemic type of situation? Imagine hearing, Garrett Cole was on a 10-day flu list, it's like, huh? What, 10-day flu list? What? He's on the 10-day chickenpox list. What, 10-day chickenpox list? What? They would just say he's sick, But, COVID has its own plateau, unfortunately. So the Yankees had to call up a couple of guys. Finally, they were like forced to call up some certain guys. They lost the first game looking like they didn't care. They lost, I think it was 3-1, whatever it was. It was such a boring, such a no fire, nothing. It's almost like, well, why am I bothering? This is why I take, like I've told you practically every week, this is why I take these approaches when it comes to baseball nowadays. Because it's like, well, if they show they don't care, why should I? And I think it's like what it is with these guys. I think what it is in baseball nowadays, it's too buttoned up, especially when it comes to the Yankees. They look at it, and don't get me wrong, we all know it's entertainment business. We know it's a job, but it's a job that you're fortunate to be in. That only maybe 5, if not 10% of the world are lucky to say they're in, that they have the talent to be in. And the problem is they are playing a kid's game and getting paid millions of dollars. And some of these guys look like when they play this game that they look like they don't want to be there. Like they're at a job like we real people are at, like a crappy job, that they don't want to be at. That's what they look like in the dugout. They look like I really don't want to be here. I'd rather be at home. That's what they look like. And it's amazing because regular people like you and me, we would kill to have an opportunity to play on a major league team, whether it's baseball, basketball, football, hockey, soccer, whatever it is. Play tennis, facing Serena Woods, which if in her prime you would be shaking your boots. It comes 125 mile per hour serve coming right at you. But only the most fortunate of fortunate get to play this game. And most of these players, not all of them, to be fair, I don't want to say, because Tatis Jr., who I've told you since the beginning of the season, I'm still giving another year until I give him that he's definitely, if not one of the best players in baseball. He's proving it so far. I'll give the kid that, but I'm not giving him the keys to the car to the MLB franchise yet, as far as being the face of the franchise. Not just yet. He's definitely the face of the franchise of the San Diego Padres, but he's not the face of the league. Not just yet. I'm not like one of these people, or these people nowadays, they give the keys to the Rolls Royce after a week. You got to show me some work. In order to earn respect, you got to earn it. And Tatis has a good head on his shoulders. He doesn't look like he's spoiled. He looked like he was raised right by his father, who was a professional baseball player. Tatis Sr., who played for the Cardinals back in the late 90s. He's the one that hit 2 grand slams in 1 inning. That's I think that's still a record to this day. Oh, it was part of a record. But anyway. But people like Fernando Tatis Jr., what's his name? Ohtani with the Angels, they get it. They see it as entertainment and they love doing what they're doing. And it shows. Where most of the people in this baseball league, they look like, not all of them now, but they look like, I'm just doing this job, getting paid, and I don't care. Basically, nonchalant type of look. And I know that can be perception, because perception could be reality unfairly. But if you show that in the dugout and you show it, especially in your play, what do you think fans are going to think? You think they're going to be like, oh, yeah, they care about us fans. Oh, they go out of their way. They hustle. They go out of their way to make sure that the fans are happy. Now, to be fair to these athletes, you can't please everybody. No one can please everybody. So I understand that. But, at the same time, appreciate who put you there, You know, if it wasn't for the fans, you wouldn't even get a chance to be where you're at. And that goes for not only in sports world, but also in the entertainment world too. More people, too many people got their heads up their rear end, and they think like, they're mighty and higher than anybody else in the world and in the universe. Unfortunately, there's people like that, and you know who they are. I don't need to go into. I'll be here forever if I go throughout the list. But yeah, my Yankees, dropped the egg. They laid an egg, actually. That's the saying actually goes. They laid an egg that Friday. And then the next two games, and now this is where it gets a little weird. Because then Saturday happens. They had like a 45-minute delay or so in the beginning of the game because they said there was a storm system that they saw on their radar that was going to maybe delay the game. And they didn't want to risk of both teams losing their main starters. And of course, with the Yankees having Garrett Cole out there that Saturday night, they didn't want the Yankees or even the Red Sox having their guy go out, which wasn't their main guy. But they didn't want either pitchers of both teams to lose their starter if they started the game like it was supposed to start at 7 o'clock, whatever it was, and then it starts raining right away, and then it's a long rain delay. And if it's a long rain delay more than an hour or so, their starting pitchers is done for the game. And that would screw up everything for both of the teams' bullpens. So it's understandable. So a lot of people, I remember hearing on local sports talk radio in New York, oh, why did they do that? And baseball screws it up. And don't get me wrong, baseball has screwed up a lot of things, but I'm actually on the side of Major League Baseball. Who would have thought? But I'm actually on their side because I can understand. They saw it that it looked like it was coming, the storm. They didn't want to take a chance. They waited an hour. Then they started playing. And to be fair, it didn't start to rain till real later, like 10:30 at night. And that's when people started complaining, well, see, if they would have started on time, an hour earlier like it should have been, then they would have escaped the rain. I say, well, that's Monday morning quarterback. Basically, now you're saying after the fact. Of course, it's easier. Anybody can do that. Anybody could make their point after the fact. So to be fair to Major League Baseball and Robin Manfred, and who trust me, he deserves as much criticism as anyone. Who'd have thought that Roger Goodell wouldn't be the number one hated commissioner in sports? He might have lost that title now to Robert Manfred of Major League Baseball. But I digress. But to be fair, they were just trying to do the right thing, trying to be fair for both teams. And I can understand that. It's not like it was the Yankees' control, because usually it's the home team's control when it comes to certain things. But when it came to that, it wasn't their control. That was MLB giving them orders to look, wait a while. We see there's a storm coming. We don't want any of your guys, on both sides to lose their starters. So starting pitchers. So wait an hour or so and see what happens. But of course, especially with us New Yorkers, not me specifically, but I heard a bunch of them complain on the radio. Why do they do that? They always do that. Like, oh boy. And trust me, I understand. I've seen rainouts where there was no rain and nothing happened. They just heard that it was going to be a severe storm that was going to dominate that day, and then it didn't happen. So, okay, that looks bad at times, which has happened in the past. But in this particular case, I'm not going to be one of those fans. I'm actually on the MLB side for once. But see, that shows you how fair and balanced I am. I'm not one of these people just because if I don't like somebody or like somebody, I'm going to be, what's the word I'm looking for? I'm going to be biased. I'm going to tell you the truth regardless if I like it or not. I'm going to tell you the truth. So with that being said, the Yankees played the game. During the game before it got called off, and it was official game after 6 innings, there was an incident with a fan, and I forgot the dude from the Red Sox, their left fielder. A ball got thrown at his back. Supposedly what happened was that this dude, this was the guy who was involved in the Mookie Betts trade. This is who they got from the Dodgers when they traded Mookie Betts. He's actually a okay player. He's not great like Mookie Betts, but he's okay for what they got for him. So he loves to interact with the fans in Yankee Stadium. So usually with these ball players, if there's a foul ball or whatever, or after a third out, they like to take the ball and throw it to the fans. Almost every team, whether it's the home team or visit team, they do that all the time. If you don't follow baseball like I do, or don't know that fact. So in this particular case, I think it was a foul ball. It was still during the inning. So he picked it up and he saw a Red Sox fan in the crowd. And this always happens when it comes to the Yankees and Red Sox games, whether in Fenway or in Yankee Stadium. You see the opposing team's fans in the stadium, whether it's a Yankee fan in Fenway Park or a Red Sox fan in Yankee Stadium. It goes both ways. It's kind of like the Mets and Yankees, when they have their games together. You see both fans in both stadiums, whether in Citi Field or Yankee Stadium. So I forgot this dude's name. I wish I remember his name, but he saw the Red Sox fan was a kid, so he wanted to give the ball to the kid. But the kid's like, upper, he's in the bleachers. It's not like he could just reach up and just give it to him. The bleachers are not like right there in distance where he could just give the ball to the kid. It's not like it's field level, So he had to throw it up a few rows up. Well, he missed the kid, and it went to somebody else. So he was hoping that the guy would give it, because sometimes that happens. Adults catch a ball and they see a kid and they give the kid a ball because it's such a wonderful moment for a kid. They're like, "Oh, I got a baseball." It's such a, trust me, it's a big deal. Actually, it's still a big deal to me. I never had the fortune of catching a foul ball in my life. My brother did a few years ago at Citi Field, which is a hilarious story. He almost got a concussion. Actually getting it. I got to get him on the show one day so he can talk about that. But that was hilarious. I remember he said, finally, I remember him reaching me, my brother Danny, finally, I got a foul ball. Almost had a concussion, but I got it. I laughed so hard. But I digress. So in this case, whoever this was, I don't know, was a young adult or older guy. I don't know. I think it was a young adult for what I saw in the video. You could look it up on YouTube. Matter of fact, you can look it up on YouTube as I speak. If you put down Yankee fan throws a ball at Red Sox player or something, it'll come up. And for what the story goes, the fan throws it at the player's back, and he was livid, and understandably so. So the game got delayed a little bit. Alex Cora, the Red Sox manager, took the players off the field, which was the right thing to do to protect their players. And it was about maybe 10, 15 minutes or so before the guy came back out, the players came back on. And in the press conference after the game, which the Yankees won at a rain out, I think there was I forgot the score of that game. It might have been, I forgot what it was, but the Yankees won. Believe me, they did. Look it up. So the guy, he was the Red Sox player. He was like, I could take insults to my family, or back and forth, fun, as far as getting each other's nerves. But when you throw a ball at me, you cross the line, and I totally 100% agree. I find it amazing that he even said that he don't mind fans talking about his family, in a bad way. I was like, wow, he might be better than me, because I've heard players where they don't like hearing that. If they hear them talking about their mother or their wife or kids or something, they go berserk, especially in baseball. So he says he don't mind that, but he says once you can yell and scream and say whatever about my family all you want, or about me, but once you throw a ball at me, that's a wrap. And I understand that. I totally get it. And the thing is, had he, let's say he had the way of if he had a way, if he wanted to, which he didn't try to go up the stands, but let's say he did, like if it was that NBA game with what's his face, who did that big time debacle that happened in Detroit years ago, with Ron Artest and that thing that happened. If he would have did something like that where he would have fought the fan in the stands, forget about it, he would have been villainized. Absolutely. He would have been, oh, he should know better. He's a professional. He shouldn't do that, blah, 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 which is understandable. But, these fans, I'm telling you, this goes back to even what's been happening in the NBA playoffs, which I'm going to get to after this. I've noticed how with Russell Westbrook going through this and all these other guys going through all this crap, popcorn being thrown them, being spit on. I mean, thankfully they're banned for life. And by the way, this fan in Yankee Stadium got banned for life, and he deserves it. And I think he's banned in every Major League Baseball stadium, not just Yankee Stadium. So good, because this type of behavior is stupid. You're at a baseball game. It's a privilege to be at a baseball game. It's not a right to be in a baseball game. It's just like it's a privilege to go out to dinner. Believe it or not, not everybody can do that or afford to do that. It's a privilege to do those things. You know what I mean? To go to the theater, to go to a baseball game, football game, basketball. All these are privilege. Going to the movie theater, it's a privilege. It's not a right. It's a privilege. So if you act up in public and especially you're trying to hurt a athlete or a performer on stage or something like that, you deserve, or anybody in the crowd, you deserve to be ejected and banned for life. And for you acting like a jerk, you deserve to be gone and arrested and prosecuted to the highest extent of the law. Period. Point blank. Period. End of story. So not that I've heard anybody give sympathy to this guy, and regardless of if it's an accident or not, I don't know if he meant to hit the guy, to be fair, but regardless of accident or not, you should not be throwing a baseball onto the field. And we've seen this before when they throw the baseball back on the field, but it don't hit nobody. But to tell you the truth, they shouldn't throw the baseball back on the field, period. Now, I remember early in the year, there was an incident in Yankee Stadium. I think back in May, it was early May, when fans were getting angry with the Yankees. They were throwing baseballs on the field. I'm like, what is this? We're going back to the old Yankee Stadium days of the 70s and the 80s across the street in the 90s? Like, what's going on here? We're going to throw batteries now like we used to? When I say we, I'm not talking about me. I'm talking about the Yankee fans. And not all Yankee fans are like this, and I'm one of them, okay? And like this Red Sox player said, regardless if you hate the team or not, you don't do that. You don't throw objects at the opposing team. You don't do that. And I totally agree. Anybody that, I would think everybody would be unanimous, 100% agreeing with that. You would think, if you're somewhat of a human being and have your head screwed on right. But yeah, that was a embarrassing incident. But the Yankees won. And then the Sunday night game, actually, by the way, Garrett Cole pitched great in that game, even though it was a 6-inning shortened, rained out game, but it was an official game. He pitched great, and he was going to go out that next inning before it officially got called. So it just goes to show you how he's taking the bull by the horns, and Garrett Cole is probably the only real leader of that clubhouse. Because none of these everyday players are leaders. So they won 2 out of 3. By the way, they won the Sunday night game, and now they had a day off yesterday. They're playing the Phillies tonight in the Bronx. It's only a 2-game series, and then they go to Fenway Park in Boston, starting. I think they start. I don't know if they're off Thursday. I think it's another 4 games. I think it's a 3 or 4 game series at Fenway Park this weekend. So baby steps. I'm not gonna go crazy and be like, oh, we're not gonna make the playoffs. Or, oh, yeah, we're gonna start, dominating everybody. Honestly, deep in my gut, in my heart, as of right now, I mean, we still got a couple months left to see. We still got this month and 2 more months after this until the beginning of October when the playoffs start. Do I really think, as of right now, the Yankees will make the playoffs? I say yes, but only because of the wild card, and I think they will be the second wild card. Unless they go on a dominating run like they did in '95 as a wild card, as being the first wild card, or what is it? Unless they did like they did in '95 or like in '97 or even back in 2000, and they had that run in 2007 when they were struggling like the Yankees were now, and they made the wild card. But that was only one wild card back then. Spot then. This one, ever since I think it was 2015. Yeah, it was since 2015 they started with the 2 wildcard teams in both leagues. So we've been doing this now for 6-7 seasons. So I think if I had to really think about it, and if I can give you my prediction, I really think the Yankees will make the playoffs, barring there's no other injuries. Because if they do, and there's more, for God forbid, if there's more COVID situations, then they might, then they'd be done. But they're treading water. They're still hanging in there. So we'll see what happens. And as far as the rest of baseball, yeah, it's just, there was another incident I'm not going to talk about right now. that happened in Washington, and thankfully it happened outside the stadium. So yeah, but yeah, it's just crazy, and hopefully, I know I saw something with Robin Manfred that he's probably going to take away that 7 inning doubleheader thing, which that to me it doesn't matter either way, but he needs to do something to make this game better. And it's going to be very interesting when this season's over and the collective bargaining agreement is expired. What's going to happen? Because I'm telling you right now, and I said it once, I'm going to say it again. Don't be surprised next year that there's going to be a strike. Do I think it would be a cancellation of the season, like what happened in the end of '94? I don't think it'll be that bad, but I can see maybe the first month or so something happening. So it's going to be interesting once when the off season starts. But we'll save that talk for another time. Now, to the NBA Finals. Let me tell you something. I've caught here and there the games. Anyone who doesn't know, the Milwaukee Bucks are 1 game away from winning their first championship since geez, I wasn't even alive. It was like 1971 or something. I was born like 2 years later, 73. The Bucks haven't won a championship since Oscar Robertson and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I think he was still Lou Alcindor back in those days. Before Kareem Abdul-Jabbar changed his name, to from Lou Alcindor to Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. But they have it, and let me tell you something. The Bucks are and I'm gonna be honest, like I always am. I'm shocked that they're leading this series in a way. I thought that after being down 0-2, they might have won 1 or 2 games, and I would have been in. And then the Suns were going to win 4-2 because, as I told you, I'm rooting for Chris Paul, CP3. And then these last 2 games have catapulted the Milwaukee Bucks into the stratosphere of being 1 game from winning their first NBA championship in like almost 50 years, practically 50 years. So Giannis, aka the Greek Freak, has been one of the reasons why they at where they at. But give kudos to also Holiday and Melton. That steal by Holiday with the alley-oop. Well, first of all, let me rewind back. Game 4, as the time was expiring, if I'm not mistaken, they showed it was a major play when Booker turned over the ball to Holiday. There was a play with the Suns in Game 4 where Booker was trying to do an alley-oop. I forgot who on his team on the Suns, but Giannis came out of nowhere to block that dunk. I mean, it's one thing to block a shot, which is hard to do sometimes, but to block a dunk as you're moving at top speed at the side of the rim might be one of the most amazing, if not, definitely top 5, maybe even top 3 moments of NBA Finals history, and a huge turning point in these NBA Finals. I mean, that was the most amazing block I've ever seen since LeBron James did that to the Warriors in 2016 when they came back down 3-1. That was in a Game 7. And to me, that block by LeBron in Game 7 in 2016 NBA Finals was more significant because of the weight of that game, because it was a Game 7. It was win or go home for both sides. But in this situation, I'll definitely put it top 5, because, I mean, that changed this whole series in a way. Not only that play, which made the Bucks won that game, but the next game after, with the steal by Holiday off of Booker, ironic enough, dribbles the ball down, sees Giannis in the corner. He does an alley-oop attempt, but in this case, it wasn't blocked by the Suns like Giannis did to the Suns in the game before. And an amazing dunk. A little inch here and there, it could have went a whole different way. And Giannis had the most exclamation point dunk in the NBA Finals history. And then looking in the camera like, and what? And I'm like, wow. And that was in the closing seconds of the game. And I'm looking at this like, wow. And this was in Phoenix, mind you. This is in Phoenix. So now tonight, game 6, they have a chance to close it out to win their first title in 50 years as a franchise. And I'm telling you right now, if they close this out tonight, the Bucks, Giannis is definitely going to get MVP. It's not even close. I mean, don't get me wrong. Holiday's been doing his thing, and Middleton here and there, but trust me, Giannis is going to be the MVP. And I tell you why. Not only because of those moments he provided, but also, I mean, he has a resume, which even certain ones I didn't even know about. He's a 5-time All-Star. He's a defensive player of the year, 2019, 20 season. Uh, he's an all-star. He's been an all-star game MVP. Not that that's a huge deal, but that's amazing itself. And he definitely, if he closes this out tonight, and even if he doesn't close this out tonight, even if it's in a game 7 in Phoenix, his legacy will go to the stratosphere. He will definitely be talked about as one of the greatest players of all time. Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, the contributions that Giannis has done, especially in these last couple of games. And this is a guy who came off injury. He was injured in the last series, especially those last couple of games in the conference finals. And for him to come out like this, the last couple of games, he's been outstanding. I mean, his team has responded, being down 0-2 and winning these last 3 games, and especially the last 2, which came down to the wire. That's impressive. That shows guts. That shows fire. That shows passion. That shows, to me, when you see moments like that happen, 99.9% of the time, that team wins a championship. It's very rare when team has those moments and they have certain moments like that in the playoffs that they don't win a title. That usually means it's meant to be that they're going to win this year. And it's funny. I remember saying last week on this show that he's now rooting for Giannis. And you know what? After these last 2 games, I agree. Now I agree. Last week I didn't really agree to that because I like CP3. I want him to win a title, but seeing what Giannis has been doing and how this team has been playing with fire, and trust me, I have no dog in the fight. I don't care who wins this finals between the Suns and the Bucks, but how you not fall in love with this team and see the passion and the fire and how they want it so bad and the hard work they put in every possession that they have. So I wish it was my team. I mean, the Knicks has shown that during the season, but in the playoffs, they showed absolutely zero. So hopefully they'll show that. Hopefully they're watching this finals and improve their team, and we'll see what happens. Maybe they get what's his name from the Trailblazers, but that's a talk for another day. So yeah, we'll see. I'm going to be rooting hard for the Bucks tonight. Hopefully by the time, I know the game's about to start. I think it's starting. As a matter of fact, I think it's running now as we speak. So yeah, it's going to be very interesting, and I'm rooting for Giannis and the Bucks and Milwaukee. I mean, they have sold out crowd. They're going to have like 15,000 outside the stadium watching on a big screen. So they, I'm rooting for Milwaukee. In Milwaukee, they haven't had a winning team since Green Bay. Well, Green Bay Packers, which is what a segue this is. And even though Green Bay is not in Milwaukee, but it's in the same state, they're like about a couple hours away from each other. Green Bay and Milwaukee. I think it's a 2-hour difference. I think they're 2 hours apart. The cities in between. But there's a lot of Green Bay Packer fans in Milwaukee. So, and I love cheese. So if you love cheese, you'll be rooting for the Milwaukee Bucks. Or any team from Wisconsin, you'll be rooting for, because if you love cheese, then you would be rooting for that team to win the championship. So as of right now, and trust me, if it does happen and the Suns lose their shot at winning the title, I'll feel bad for CP3, for Chris Paul. I really would, because he's definitely going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. And I know some of these so-called experts and fans will say, oh, he's not the best of the best because he didn't win a ring. I'm not going to say that about him, because although, he has had a record of when he has a record of being up 2-0, his team's being up 2-0 and not closing it out. This will be, I think, the 4th or 5th time in his career, or something like that. But to be fair, it's not always Chris Paul's fault. Now, he hasn't been playing well lately, but you got to remember, he's coming back from a COVID situation. So, it depends on who you are. And also, Chris Paul is not used to, not to make excuses, but Chris Paul is not used to being still playing late in the year. He's used to, taking his summer vacation by now. So it's I feel for him. I really do. There's no excuse. I mean, if he does win, I'll be happy for him, Chris Paul. But right now, I hope Giannis and the Bucks win. Now, like I was just saying a minute ago, a perfect segue when I said Green Bay, because we're going to talk about real briefly Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers still not getting along, and this has been going on for a lot of years, but more publicly since the end of their playoff run in the NFC Championship game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers against Tampa Bay and the Bucks. When he didn't go for it, once again, people forget that Aaron Rodgers didn't have the guts to tell his coach, "Hey, let's go for this," and he let the coach do his thing. When you have a star like Aaron Rodgers and you have that resume, look, coach, I know you say you want to punt, but we're right there near the end zone. You should go for it. And that's because, Aaron Rodgers is passive aggressive. Which leads me to this. Now, the Packers trying to save face, and because what a coincidence, we're about a week and a half to training camp, and what a shock. The Packers offered Aaron Rodgers a 2-year extension, which would have made the contract of 5 more years for him with this 2-year extension, and he would have been the highest paid quarterback in the NFL. And Aaron Rodgers declined the offer. Now, before you all say, "Oh, what a spoiled brat," what is he doing? It's more than just about the money, believe it or not. He feels he hasn't been respected. Now, I'm going to be one of those guys. I haven't heard anybody but me say this. And don't get me wrong, the Green Bay Packer management deserves to be trashed and ridiculed and criticized for the way they've been treating Aaron Rodgers, as far as not giving him the right guy, not having him any input in the team as far as who he would like. Because let me tell you something, even Tom Brady, even though in New England they were controlling with the salary cap and everything, they still got who they wanted for Tom Brady. Even though it wasn't the stellar players, they still got the players they needed to help them win. Where with Aaron Rodgers, they recently, the year before last, drafted a quarterback, and Aaron Rodgers said it didn't bother him, but he knows how management was slowly basically telling him, "Hey, your time is up." But Aaron Rodgers got to remember, you were that guy too, like that guy who got drafted, and what's his name? A guy, Hall of Famer named Brett Favre felt the same way as you did. So remember where you came from. And here's another thing I want to say about Aaron Rodgers. I understand he feels a certain way. He feels salty towards the Green Bay Packers, and it's obvious he wants to be traded from the Packers. Whether he goes to Denver, whether he goes to New Orleans, which I think would be a better spot for him, to be honest. Imagine him in a dome. And the Saints are still pretty good, by the way. I think that would be the smarter choice to go. Whether or whoever it might be. Let's remember, you are Aaron Rodgers. If you're one of these top superstars, you actually have the keys to the car. Just like a Tom Brady. If you don't like what's going on, that's when you open your mouth and say something. It's that old saying that goes, people are going to treat you the way you allow them to treat you. So in other words, Aaron Rodgers, you've let this happen for many, many years. You could have opened your mouth a long time ago. Now, to be fair, we don't know behind closed doors if he has done this. But you could tell if you see how he does his mannerisms, his body language, the way he talks in a press conference, in the post game and the pregame, he's passive aggressive. You could tell he's a passive aggressive guy. He's not one of those type A, alpha male type of guys. He's not. He's not like a Kobe Bryant or Tom Brady or Michael Jordan type of guy who demands respect. He's not like that. And that goes back to the championship game back in January. You were just a few yards away from scoring a touchdown, taking the lead, if I'm not mistaken. You could have overrode your coach and say, listen, I'm the star of this franchise. We're right there. Who knows when I'm going to have another chance to go back in the Super Bowl? Okay, I've only been to what, 2 Super Bowls? If I'm not mistaken, you've been to two, lost one, won one. I haven't been there in 10 billion. It's been forever. I've been losing the playoffs every year. I'm getting older. No, I'm gonna call this. And if it doesn't work, the blame's on me. But that's not what Aaron Rodgers did. He just accepted the coach's what he wanted to do, which trust me, I understand, you respect what the coach does. But when you're an elite of the elite and you're one of those guys and you're considered one of the best throwing quarterbacks in the NFL today, I think you have the right to open your mouth and say, no, coach, I got this. You know how many times Tom Brady said that to the great Bill Belichick? You think he listened to everything in Belichick had to say? I mean, he respected him, of course. Of course, Brady respected Belichick because he's the head coach, but he told him, listen, we're going for it here. I got this. Trust me, I got this. Now, if you don't give the coach and management confidence that you got this, that's why they take over and say, no, you don't got this because you don't give us the confidence to make us think you got it. So it's both sides' fault, okay? It's not just all the Green Bay Packers' fault. It's some Aaron Rodgers' fault, okay? Aaron Rodgers let this happen for years and years, never opened his mouth. He does this passive-aggressive ways of laying it out to the public, and he purposely let it out in the public. He didn't have to. All this, to be fair, on both sides, this should have never been to the public. We in the public should have never known about this. This should have been kept in-house behind closed doors to work it out. But obviously that couldn't happen. A bunch of babies on both sides that don't know how to handle themselves. And I don't feel bad for any side. I understand Aaron Rodgers feeling the way he feels because, of course, if you work for a boss that didn't respect you and the contributions that you made to the company, of course you feel a certain way. You're human. But at the same time, there's an old saying, like I just said a few minutes ago, you allow people to treat you the way you want to be treated. And Aaron Rodgers allowed them to treat him like a welcome mat, basically wiping their feet on him, stepping all over him. That's his fault. So he should take some of that blame. It doesn't excuse the Green Bay management. But to me, it goes both ways. Okay. So, if Aaron Rodgers go to another team or he wants to make $10 million a year being a host of Jeopardy, which if he does that, whatever, I can see him doing that in the future, but I still think he can still play. But that's his decision. He has his right. So whatever happens, happens. But what Green Bay did today earlier, that was to try to save face. That was basically trying to save face for the public, trying to make it where Aaron Rodgers is the bad guy. So, well, see, we made an attempt to sign him. He turned us down. So it's a psychological thing to throw the stupid people out there that probably will believe, oh, see, Aaron Rodgers is a jerk. He turned down a 2-year extension, which would have made 5 more years with him with the Green Bay Packers and him being the highest paid quarterback in NFL history. Boy, he's greedy. He's a jerk. That's what they wanted. That's how they wanted to spin it. And that's what it was. It was a public mixing, by the publicists of the team, basically, trying to save face and trying to make them look better than they are because they know they screwed up. But to me, both sides screwed up. The whole relationship on both sides screwed up. They both screwed up. So it's both sides' fault. I'm the only one that said it. I've heard nowhere on ESPN or anywhere else saying what I'm saying. And if anybody doesn't at least think that way a little bit, then you must have some sort of agenda. Because if you have to at least put some of the blame on Aaron Rodgers for allowing this happening to him. He wanted to be the victim. He allowed himself to be the victim. So let's stop it. Okay, let's stop it. It's both sides' fault. Period. Stop. That's it. I digress. And I think actually after that, that's all I have to say right now. I think my time is up. So that's all covered. Everything I've covered, I got it right here, as far as my list tells me. So once again, of course, we have no stuff tonight because Heaven provides the stuff when it comes to what's going on behind the scenes in the entertainment world. So he should be back next week on the Benchwarmers podcast. Of course, Tuesday nights, 8 p.m. exclusively here on the IE Network. Thank you all for listening. and watching and contributing to the channel and listening. And please tell a friend and tell another friend. Please like, comment, and subscribe to the channel, to the IE Network, right here on YouTube. Also, check out the content we have on this show. I mean, on this channel, excuse me. Besides my show, of course, the Benchwarmers podcast. 8 p.m. every Tuesday night, exclusively here on the IE Network. We have my producer and director extraordinaire, Wes Clark, aka the director. He has his show Real Talk, which comes on every Monday night, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. He just did a show last night. Please check that out and tell a friend, tell another friend, share that one too. With him and the Jedi Council, Ralph and Kev, exclusively here on the IE Network. We have, of course, my co-host, the man himself, the king of all media, self-proclaimed king of all media, Heaven Hollywood. The man behind the scenes and, been in the behind the scenes entertainment business for 21 years at the time. He gives his Heaven Hollywood experience on Saturday nights, which is excellent, giving you the tea. Also, his stories of the past when it comes to these entertainers. A lot of tidbits, any news that comes out in the entertainment world, when there's a lot of gossip or whatever, he's the man to look for. He has his connections. And I tell you, just keep an eye, keep that reminder bell on, that notification bell on, make sure that's on. So you will get not only when he comes on Heaven Hollywood, but also the director, Wes Clark, and of course myself, of course. And of course, Lex out there, she does Block TV, talking about what's going on in entertainment news. And yeah, that's about it. We got more things to come, more things to do. So please stay tuned and like, comment, and subscribe to the IE Network here on YouTube. And with that being said, I'm going to bid you all adieu. Have a good night, everybody. Please take care. Please use your brains out there. Respect one another. Don't be stupid. Okay? Respect each other. Love each other. Let's try to get along out there, okay? It's not that hard. It's not that hard, okay? Come on, please. And with that being said, for Heaven Hollywood, for Wes Clark and Lex, and the rest of the IE Network family, I'm your host of the Benchwarmers podcast, James Acevedo, saying this to y'all as I go into the internet radio horizon. Thank you, fans out there. Without you, there's no us. You all have a great weekend. Be safe and a great rest of your week, of course. And I say this to you all. Latest and tomatoes. Peace.